Lots of entrepreneurs are like, you don't need school, you don't need to go to university to start a business. You don't, but it can be really helpful. It can definitely make you more well-rounded. If you just put yourself under pressure of saying, I'm starting a business now, I'm not going to university, it becomes very overwhelming. If you work hard and creatively, you can have anything you want, not everything you want. And I remember then someone came and said to us, can I pay 3 meals a day, 5 days a week, 6 weeks up front? I'm like, you want to give me £1,000?
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
Welcome to Extraordinary Unleashed, where we serve up the secrets of inspiring entrepreneurs and hustlers who've defied their own limits to unleash their greatness. I'm your host, Deborah Chosen. Your next spark of inspiration starts now. Starting with £10 in his university kitchen, Simmy Dhillon has defied the odds with Simmy Eats, enjoyed by household names and everyday people alike. A family-run business, Simmy is no stranger to hard work, and the impact is evident, where he inspires others with impactful stories and motivational insight. I feel like we have to start with Simmy Eats. I feel like not a lot of people can say in university they started a business with £10 that today is £1 million business. What actually inspired you to start Simmy Eats in the first place, and what motivated you to keep going?
Growing up, my brother was always in professional football academy, so we were always eating really healthily. But there's always been a massive kind of passion for food and flavor, and basically realized that what we were doing at home wasn't normal. People weren't having meals that were delicious, healthy, and convenient. And when I got to university, I realized that I could actually sell that to other people. And I'd always been very entrepreneurial. I always knew that from a young age, me and my brother would speak to each other about when we start this business, we're going to start a business.
So what are some of the challenges that you faced or obstacles in your business?
I was obviously a student, and I was juggling university and the business. Jay was working and juggling that. Mum was still working at Tesco's and juggling work on the business. And we never saw anyone who looked like us. We never, we didn't have any mentors, any guidance. We literally were two kids with no experience. And I think, just basically the background that we've come from, there aren't people saying, hey, go and do this, go and do that. There are people saying, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And that's why we're kind of, in a way, we've just it's really great that as a family, you just block out the noise and you just crack on with what you need to do.
Knowing that you haven't seen someone else doing that, I wonder who were the people that did inspire you along the way? Were there any people that you looked up to or influenced?
When I was, really starting the business, I would read a lot. So it was a bit cliche, but, Steve Jobs. And I, to be honest, even though I had an iPhone before, I was I didn't know the story of it.
Yeah.
I probably knew less than the average person about Apple and who founded it.
Going back to Simmy that's in uni and studying economics, what do you feel are some of the key skills that you gained from studying that have really impacted your approach to business today?
To be honest, I've always loved school and education. And I know lots of entrepreneurs kind of are you don't need school, you don't need to go to university to start a business. You don't, but it can be really helpful. Different courses will give you different skills. And I think the thing with business is that it's very broad. To succeed as an entrepreneur, you need, a lot of different skills. You want the problem solving, you want the data analysis, you want the research element, you want the soft skills, the people skills. There's a lot to cover. You now want to learn more about, AI and how to leverage it. So I think a broad course on business can be very helpful, relevant. It gives you the theory, but then it means it's actually very practical when you're applying it in your business day to day, in your internships, in your jobs, whatever you do before you get to starting your own thing. If you've gone through education, it can definitely make you more well-rounded. I think the problem is when people just they over-educate and they're just oh, well, I'm just going to do education and not think about starting at all. And eventually I'm going to be so educated that I can start.
Yeah.
And they never end up doing it.
Yeah.
So I think that is really nice to kind of do both at the same time.
Going back a little bit to speaking about kind of the company, Simmy Eats, and what you've built. I know that currently, of course, it's a family-run business, but if you were looking to bring some new people onto the team, aside from qualifications, what are some of the soft skills that you look for?
We need people to hit the ground running and just to go out and solve problems. So I think that's a key thing. And then also it's just how they are as a person. We are still a relatively small team. It's growing all the time. But, their communication skills, their people skills are massive.
What's the value that you would say to re-enter in the education space? Maybe for those that might be watching that may have dropped out, decided it wasn't for them. What did you see as the value really in re-entering?
I did see the value in education and still do. I got through, my first year, partway through my second year, and I just saw a massive opportunity with the business. And I realized that I couldn't carry on juggling both. It was just too much. And then, I did decide to go back and finish it, and definitely was the right decision.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, like I mentioned before, they're too theoretical. and then anything to apply it on. Whereas I always had something to apply, my courses on. So that was really useful. I think I gained a lot in terms of skills, in terms of a different environment, in terms of actually sometimes a break from the business, not just solely focus on one thing. The great thing about university is that it is quite flexible. And I think the ability to, work and study at the same time is really like something that's actually you didn't used to really get. But now you're seeing, courses be more flexible. So when you're working, you're learning something one week and then you go into the workplace, you're like, this is actually real. Like that's the theory that I learned, but here's where it's being applied. Yeah. So whether that's in your one-to-ones where you go into your job and you actually see how it works really, like even from an internship point of view, how companies set like KPIs, OKRs, stuff like that. That's all things that you're going to be like studying the theory of. So I think they both really feed well into each other.
You've come a long way from £10 in your university kitchen and, just trying to figure this little business out to what it is today. And what is maybe something that you wish someone told you about succeeding in business?
I think just starting sooner and like just testing and failing and learning. Like the best, someone who's an entrepreneur at 50, why are they valuable? Because they've had 20, 30 years experience, or some of them maybe have 10 years experience. I'm like, can I be as competent at 30 as most entrepreneurs at 50 because I put in that many repetitions, lessons, failures? So I think it is just like diving in and just basically, learning from mistakes, learning from reps. And the only way you make those lessons is by doing. What I always say is like, if you're watching this, you're probably interested in business, right? And entrepreneurship, and you want to start your own business. If you just put yourself under pressure saying, I'm starting a business now, I'm not going to university, it becomes very overwhelming. So I would say get started with your business sooner, but university is the perfect environment to do that.
Definitely. If we could go back in time, right, and you were able to talk to younger Simmy, what piece of advice would you give him about where he is today?
If you work hard and creatively, you can have anything you want, not everything you want. And maturity is the ability to, reject good alternatives if there are even better ones. So like you have to choose. But you can choose anything if you put your mind into it, if you work really hard and creatively. And sometimes, the biggest thing is choosing what not to go for. So for me, I was like, okay, well, I can have university, business, and great job. And then I'm like, well, actually, I can't. I need to choose this one over that.
What would be your top 3 tips for career success?
Firstly, I would say thinking long term. And like not just choosing like the best quick option. So like you might think, well, this path, for example, will make me the most money in the short term. But what's going to happen in 5 years or 10 years? Like, is there a limited ceiling there? So I think one of the major things is people are far too short-term thinking in this day and age. People like want that quick fix on social media. I think definitely you've got to think long-term. The other thing is, like you're earning or learning. It's a lot of these like kind of sales jobs that are commission based. Like you can earn a lot of money young, but you're only going to be in that. It's kind of, you're on a hamster wheel where you just have to make these sales all the time. There's no progression from it. Whereas, there might be a job where you go in more junior, but you're going to learn from the best people. The environment's the best environment. I think it's like actually about like enjoyment and purpose and passion. You can feel really drained and burnt out doing 40 hours a week or something you hate. Whereas you can be doing 80 hours a week or something you absolutely love and you're energized, right? You're loving it. Having purpose in your work as well is a massive thing.
So we've spoken a lot, of course, about how university has impacted your journey, and it's been really amazing to hear about, there's these invaluable skills that you've been able to get whilst you're there. So if you were the one that was in charge and it was the business school of Simmy, and for those that are watching, they've heard everything that you've said and they're thinking, okay, what's one actionable thing that I can do to kind of help me actually unleash my extraordinary?
To be honest, I would just say like to start something and to actually like monetize something. So it's just kind of a case of like, can you prove to yourself, even if something as simple as like, can I make £1,000 this summer? I remember, making your first sale, hitting your first like, we shifted from, like takeaways to, weekly packages. And I remember then someone came and said to us, hey, can I pay 3 meals a day, 5 days a week, 6 weeks up front? I'm like, you want to give me £1,000?
Heck yeah.
I mean, and I think, that was like incredible, confidence boost, validation. So again, I'd say, can you go through that process and create something that people actually want to pay you money for and set a target? Maybe it's 1K, maybe it's 10K, maybe it's 3 months or 6 months. Set that target and try and do it. And then, it might be like, okay, well, great. This isn't my long-term business idea. This is something that I can execute within a month or two. I'm now going to take what I've earned from this. It might be £1,000, it might be £10,000 into my next venture.
Yeah. Okay. So start where you are and set goals.
Yeah.
And then smash them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we can be sitting on the yellow coach just like Simmy, talking about our £1 million business. Thank you so much, Simmy. Really appreciate it.